carries its name, especially it always carried its name in Indian people. So a very interesting thing happened to me. So what happened is, as a young engineer who did mathematics, computer science, artificial intelligence, and when I came to America, I also knew biology because my older sister studied for medical school, and I helped her study it. Because as us IITians, we always want to learn more than what we should know, anyway. So I walked into, there was a job requirement at UCLA, this is like many years ago, right? 25 years ago, of somebody who knew women anatomy, somebody who knew statistics, mathematics, could program, as well as develop a neural network. And neural networks were a new thing, and as well as do 3D imaging. Now, it's describing like me, right? But they didn't know that. So I said, they will never find somebody like that. They were advertising for 6 months. They never found anybody. I applied over there. And when I go in, I see a very wonderful Indian woman sitting there, along with Dr. Rosenthal, who was the head of the department. And this lady smiles at me and says to Dr. Rosenthal like this, and walks away. And Dr. Rosenthal said, "Oh, we have been waiting for a smart person like you." And I said, "How do you know I'm smart?" "Oh," she said, "you are from IIT, aren't you?" So that was the start of my journey in this country. So I have always been thankful for our IIT education. And this was the diverse kind of thing that I needed to do. And here we have people from diverse areas. We have Parag Havaldar, who is an Academy winner in visual effects and does gaming. Can you believe? Gaming. And then we have Vibhu Kaushik, who is from IIT Delhi. So you're from IIT Kharagpur. We have Vibhu Kaushik from IIT Delhi, who does, the power thing all over. So be nice to him because he controls the power through Southern California Edison. He's responsible for the modernization of grid technology for Southern California Edison. And he could make people's power stop if you're not nice to him. Right, Vibhu?
This is coming from personal experience.
Yes. 3 days ago, every day in the morning, my power goes off. So I've been complaining to him.
We were on a Skype call, and she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I was describing it, and she lost power." I'm like, "Do you understand the importance of what we do?"
Absolutely. It was so timely. And then we have Rajesh Pankaj here, how many people have smartphones here? And people who didn't raise their hand, you don't have phones? Okay. So the chip inside it was probably designed by Rajesh's team or Rajesh himself. He'll tell us a story about the chip design. He's the senior VP at Qualcomm, and he's from IIT Kanpur. And then we have Prabodh Mathur, who's a 5-time entrepreneur. How did he do it, like 5 times? I was tired after 2. But
it's a lot of fun if you get to do what you love.
And so his first company, was it the first company that was sold to Becton Dickinson?
No, it was actually the 4th one that got sold to Boston Scientific.
Boston Scientific,
yeah,
sorry.
But the previous ones have also been sold to other companies, yes.
Right, and he's also from IIT Kanpur. And in his free time after doing all these companies, he has designed a full functioning modern rail system in his garage. And he showed it to us. And it's actually functioning. And it means it's in small scale, only in the garage. But I can just imagine when he feels like, now I should start another company. And there where I go. So these are our panelists. If you'd like to tell us a little bit of an overview about your industry and how you came into it and how being an IITian has helped you.
Sure. So I'm from Kharagpur, and during my final year, we do an undergrad project, right? One thing that I got exposed to out there was trying to use images, capturing images, digital images, and trying to figure out something about the image. In my case, it was capturing, trying to figure out how a PCB board, if it had any flaws. And so image processing got the most out of me, and I loved it. And so that pushed me to do my PhD in computer vision. And I found myself at USC doing my PhD and also combining my work with computer graphics. At that time, Hollywood was going digital. And so a lot of my work after that came about in trying to apply computer science to entertainment. especially in the field of creating images and animation. So I'm sure almost all of you have watched my software at work in a movie of some kind. I was fortunate to work with a lot of people who are artists and directors like Spielberg and Zemeckis and Cameron for creating spectacular virtual characters that look like real people in movies and act like real people. So that was one of my good challenges. But I could bring myself up to rise to the occasion because of a strong background in mathematics and physics and computer science, which had a strong grounding at IIT. Of course, my education out here also did a lot, but I think my formative years were very necessary for all this to happen.
So after the technical Academy Award for the Technical Excellence, what next?
So I worked in the movie industry till about 2012, 2013, and then I started working for Activision Blizzard, which is a big gaming company. And my goals have been the same. I wanted to create virtual characters. I'm now trying to create them for games. So most of the times when you play in games, right now, we are a very fantastic place in technology and how things are happening, where platforms are getting stronger and stronger. And especially in entertainment, you can see yourself now interact in playing games. It's not just about going and playing a first-person shooter or something. It's becoming more narrative, and you can go and experience a story in a game where interacting with virtual characters is going to become very, very crucial. And being able to emote with them, being able to emote back to you is going to be one big thing. And so we are trying to create more immersive characters that can function with all kinds of emotional models and facial expressions and whatever needs to be created so that you can interact with digital characters.
Very interesting. So, so Vibhu, do you want to tell us a little bit about your industry as well as an overview of that and how you ended up in this one?
Yeah.
What was your passion in IIT education that led you to it?
Yeah, thank you, Smita. So I work for a regulated electric utility company here, Southern California Edison. We provide electricity to 15 million Californians, starting from Bishop, California, if you were to imagine Mammoth, and if you ski fans are over here, to Bakersfield is where our footprint starts. And from there down all the way to South Orange County, San Luis Capistrano, before the San Diego County starts, pretty much there. So last 132 years, delivering safely, reliable, affordable power is the mission of the company. I graduated from IIT Delhi in the year 2002. Back in the year 2000, Smita, I was doing this course, Power Plant Engineering, and we had a professor, Professor Sunil Kale. If any of you went to IIT Delhi, and if you had any touch with mechanical engineering department, you will know this guy. He was a Stanford PhD, and he was so passionate about clean energy and electricity markets and the whole power sector. And for right or wrong reasons, he picked on me in the class, and he asked me to do a paper on California power crisis, which if some of you were living in California back then, you would know that 2000, 2001, there was a pretty big energy crisis here. PG&E filed for bankruptcy, and Edison was about to, but did not. So little did I knew that 10 years later, I will be in Los Angeles, 2010, and really managing that area of our wholesale market participation, which is where capacity shortage, daily energy bidding on how power plants gets dispatched is the area that really led to it. So my passion really lies in clean energy, renewable energy with storage, powering our needs every day, not just the lights, fans, air conditioners, but it could power everything we do. Climate change is a huge issue. In California, we have 450 million metric tons of CO2 that the entire California economy emits every year. And the biggest source is really transportation. So we talked earlier today about a 3,000-pound car is needed to move a 200-pound person. What we did not talk is all those cars, 26 million of them in California, the 36 million Californians drive 26 million cars, burning billions of gallons of gasoline, adds up to about 200 million metric tons of CO2, out of that 450 million metric tons. So 40% of entire emissions, GHG emissions, come from transportation. So when I think of energy, it's not just the renewable energy for our home appliances and needs. I think of using the existing infrastructure. We have poles, wires, substations, everything built, which is what we are looking to modernize. We want to convert that into a plug-and-play platform where consumers can just plug in their electric cars and charge them through this renewable clean energy and also then reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. We're building heating and cooling node. All of our energies could be powered through the renewable sources. And Gunjan talked about SoCal being center of it. SoCal is literally center of it in this industry. This is the area where we have most solar. We have so much cheap renewable energy over here. Within SoCal Edison footprint, we have connected more than 300,000 rooftop solar customers, and it's growing at about 5,000 new customers every month. That's unprecedented anywhere else in the US, across the world. The EV penetration is amazing. So across the US, we have 1.2 million EVs. Half of them are in California, about 600,000. Out of that, 200,000 plus is in SoCal area. And last year, we are at a point of inflection. So if you think of technology and innovation, it comes really slow till your customer is ready, till you think it's coming, and then it comes really fast, right? So last year in Los Angeles area, 10% of the new car sales were electric vehicles. So it's moving from that 1, 2, 3 to now double digit where it's really picking up. So my passion really lies in continuing to build this grid, which when I started in this industry in Canada 16 years ago, we used to do studies about, hey, will the grid work with 10% wind and solar or 20% wind and solar? How will that behave? And because of all the intermittency issues, that wind could suddenly stop blowing and solar could have monsoon clouds, and how would you manage the ramps? What about the reactive power and inertia and voltage issues? Last year, we delivered 46% of our energy through renewable sources. So that 10, 20, 30 is gone. We are at 46 now. And we have, in SoCal Edison, we have aimed to get to 80% clean energy by the year 2030. California and Governor Brown just passed a law that by 2045, we will be in a carbon-free economy. So my passion lies in how do we engineer the grid? How do we design the grid so it works with that 100% clean energy? How do we use that energy not just for our home appliances, but also for our transportation needs, building needs, C&I, and electrify the economy and charge that through the renewable energy resources. So that's my journey. Thanks.
Very interesting. So those statistics, maybe I'll quiz you again on that. Those are awesome statistics for 46%. Wow. So I think more electric cars are coming into play.
More electric cars are
More
coming.
hybrid cars or electric cars?
I think we are moving from a hybrid to pure battery-only cars. So one of the, I guess what I could relate to is, in power plants, the same thing applies. We used to have fossil-fired power plants, and in 2017, 2 years ago, I led a project in Edison where we created world's first hybrid power plant. So with the gas turbines, we added batteries to it, and that's more of an intermediate step to make the gas units more flexible, which is a global issue, by the way. Gunjan and I were talking earlier that I was in India last week for a conference speaking in Delhi with the Ministry of Power and POSOCO, the state grid operator, CERC, the national grid regulator. And India has 200 gigawatts of coal right now out of 360 gigawatts of grid. And their biggest problem is how do we make this coal flex so that it can ramp fast and shut off and start? It's very slow ramping. It takes half a day to start those power plants. And the remaining gas and renewables, which is what they are passionate about, they're growing them. They want to double that. Modi government just passed this GTG, Green the Grid India program from 80 to 175 gigawatts in next 3 years. But they have to make sure that coal is flexible. So making the gas flexible in the near term, and eventually it becomes just a renewables and battery storage. With decline in battery cost and with renewables becoming more forecastable with declining costs. So that's
job security for Southern California Edison, for sure. And we all know then we are probably going to move towards electric cars. You know, cheaper for us too.
Anybody here drives electric cars? Oh, there we go. We have some early adopters, and you can see there's more than 10% here.
It's only half the crowd.
Sorry? Good ones are too expensive. Yeah, the cost will come down with more of us adopting. Yeah.
Thank you, Vibhu. So Rajesh, So the same question for you regarding your journey and the industry?
We make the chips that go inside your phones. Not all phones use Qualcomm chips, but large numbers do. And so we started out being a communication company. We designed the cellular system, 2G, 3G. But as your phones started to become more complex, the chips that go inside there, the brains of the chip started to become more and more complex also. So the CPU in your chip, the display, the graphical processing unit in your chip, and so on and so forth, all of those started to become more and more complex. I have been part of the corporate research and development of Qualcomm since the formation of that, almost when I first started. And we were first focused on coming up with a new cellular system, as I said, 3G data system and so on. As I said, Vibhu sitting over here, we had worked from the very beginning on trying to get more data in your phone. When we first talked about megabits per second to your phone, everybody said, what are you going to do with 1 million bits coming in your phone every second? Nobody needs that. Turns out everybody needs not just that, but more. We don't need to go there. But just to continue the story, what's inside your phone, or what capability your phone increased, and as a result, Qualcomm's chips capabilities also increased. And as a result, the group in Qualcomm that was doing the research and development to figure out what goes in the chip, we had to become broader. So in addition to being a communication research group, my research group also started to do research in CPU capabilities, in graphics capabilities, in augmented reality and virtual reality capabilities, and more recently, machine learning capabilities. Actually, we started doing machine learning some time ago. We took some wrong path, but ultimately we ended up where we are. And so ultimately, our passion is, how do we make anything that you want to do, make it more compute efficient, make it more energy efficient? Because we want to bring all of these capabilities into your phone, but if your phone's battery runs out after 2 hours of use, then you're going to throw that phone away, and you're going to say, who are these Qualcomm people? They're draining my battery, right? And right now you don't know about Qualcomm, but if we actually get it wrong, then I'm sure that everybody will tell you that, oh, it's Qualcomm's fault that your battery is draining. So it is our job to make sure that all of these things that your phone does can be done at as low a power as possible. But then if you think about it, and you're asking about, where is this industry going, what it starts to happen is that now if I can do some of these processing at low power, they start to get used in other areas also. You might not think that a car has a paucity of energy. If you think there is a big battery, there shouldn't be any problem. But when you really think about it, car also has to limit how much energy it consumes in all the computation. One reason is battery and energy source, but the other reason is heating, because anytime you use energy, you heat up the thing, and so in car things get hot and so on and so forth. So a lot of different places, the computing engine and computing and communication engine that we have designed for smartphones will start to get used in a lot of those things, and we are already winning market in automobile and other places. So.
Thank you so much. I mean, today I came to know more about my phone. Thank you. So, Prabodh, same question if that's...
Sure. My story is, I'm an engineer's engineer. I realized very early in life that engineering is my passion, and if you get to go to work every day and it's fun, then it's no work. It's just fun. And I decided that when I think about it, when I was a kid, my dad had a Ford Prefect, a car from the 1930s, I would say, and I would see it open all the time, and the engine block and pistons and cotter pins, and how I was just fascinated by how a car worked. I've seen the gearbox open, and so in my mind it was like, yeah, this is cool. And in this day and age, when you go buy a car, you don't even open the hood, right? But this is an era where everything was out there for me to see, and it was fascinating. Then, we go to IIT, which is a story by itself for some other day. And we learn, not only, I was a mechanical engineer, but we learn electronics a little bit, and computer science courses, and so on and so forth. And I come here, and I do my master's also in mechanical engineering. And then I got to work on a very interesting project. So this is in the early 80s. And we built a medical device that broke kidney stones by acoustic shock waves. And so you could focus a sound wave in such a manner that you broke the kidney stone. And that was really fascinating for me. And I had joined the company as an entry-level person, but very soon I was heading up the entire engineering team. And I think it was not so much me realizing it, but it was the company's management realizing that there was something different about me. And I think when I look back, it's because of our education from IIT, where it was multidisciplinary, and we were able to grasp not only all the aspects of engineering, which a system of this complexity, it used to be a $4.2 million piece of equipment that you installed in a hospital, in lead-lined rooms, where you had to understand the physiology. You had to understand blood perfusion and how this shock wave travels through the body, and you want to have it travel such that you don't create cavitation and bust up the cells in the body. And I remember spending time in the San Diego Supercomputing Center, not far from Qualcomm, doing the analysis, as the shock wave travels through the body and focuses on the stone. And I think, once I got hooked into the medical device field, where it was not only multidisciplinary within engineering, but now you have to transcend that and be in the body and understand the physiology. I did several companies, and my role in all companies has been the same, where I bring the technology piece in, and then somebody else brings the financing piece, because companies need money, just like we need oxygen to survive. And then I did a project where it seemed like it's completely different, but it was a cryo system to freeze the prostate for patients who have benign prostatic hyperplasia. After that, we did a product that you have probably seen. There's probably one in the lobby over here. It's an automated defibrillator that's in the walls of airports and hospitals and train stations. It's a fully automatic device that you attach on a patient. All of them are different. To me, they're all the same. It's electronics, software, and significant mechanical complexity, and understanding some aspect of the human physiology and how you act on it. After that, we did a device to treat hypertension. We all know drugs to treat hypertension. How many have heard of a device that treats hypertension? We did that. And the latest project that we are working on is treating overactive bladder, and the dirty little secret behind it, the fecal incontinence, which is again a device that treats these maladies. So that's been my journey. A lot of different diverse medical devices and products, but I see them all as same.
Thank you. And so it's just another problem to be solved.
Yeah.
Any company is just another problem to be solved.
Yeah.
Another part of the body, another part of the car, another part of the phone or the grid. And this. Oh, thank you. So we have some questions here. One of the things is that, we all, when we were younger, in school, we were all the king and queens of our colleges and schools. We were the best. We reach IIT, and we are among the best. And we have this, I don't know if many of you didn't or did. I did have this imposter syndrome, right? You fake it till you make it, right? You seem brave on the top. In the industry, it has happened to me multiple times, but that you fake it until you make it, because if you did it in IIT, you can do it anywhere. So that has worked for me in my life. So I'd like to ask you guys to talk about some challenges or a funny anecdote over there where you thought you wouldn't be able to make it in your industry, but you did it anyway. And short questions, short answers, if you don't mind, a little bit.
I was 25 years old, and I auditioned and became part of the Magic Castle. So, doing magic tricks and fooling people I understood something about it. And so I tried to apply that in the movie industry also. And fooling people is is hard, especially when you want to get them into the context of, in Magic it's maybe a little easier because you can, direct them somewhere else and do something somewhere else. But when you're looking at a screen full of pixels and you're emotionally engaged, you don't want to make sure anything throws you off. And so we're watching this, some of the runs of, the iterations of making a movie, and all the supervisors and the artists were coming and making comments on something. And I always used to show something which was completely programmatic, not touched by an artist, to make them understand that, look, this is how much automation you can do. Okay. It's not going to be 100%. You need to have artists involved in this workflow. And I knew technology would never always work to suffice an art. And this was a hard lesson as I went through my career. But trying to give technology in the hands of artists in a way that empowered them to create, they were the main drivers. And that equation worked well in the end, because you can give, when it's creating technology for art, this is a hard thing for the artist to accept, because artists are in control. But giving them enough of control over the technology is what I think I learned and got a lot of projects done.
Interesting. You never had any, right?
All the time, yeah. So I saw two parts in your question. One was when you were given something, you walk into it and you don't know it, that you're going to be able to do it, but you use the word fake it till you make it. I don't know if that was meant in humor or that was part of the question.
In humor.
In humor, yeah. So I think the one thing I really like about IIT's point Arul made earlier is, and I checked it when I came here for masters. An average undergraduate student in engineering here could graduate many of the colleges with minimum 120 credits. In IIT Delhi, at least when I graduated, it was minimum 190 credits. So I looked at what was the difference. The difference is they made you do, even though I was majoring in mechanical, minor in computer, they made you do more of electrical engineering courses, more of humanities courses. I had an entrepreneurship management course, and that really goes to the point of connecting the dots. That we can often see through the business of other different organizations within the company, see how they add value, connect the dots into driving business value from new things before people could realize how that would drive business value. So that I think insight played few times with me, because I stayed in the sector and I moved around quite a bit. I started in power plants designing, turbines and heavy machinery area, I worked in strategic planning, I worked in transmission grid operations, I worked in generation asset management, distribution grid. Every time I move, there is a different set of things. I didn't graduate as an electrical engineer, and in this job, I'm managing a couple hundred electrical engineers. And sometimes you have to kind of fake the language to walk the talk and talk the talk, but you have to understand it enough to relate with the insights, and that foundation really helps you to then you can double click and build on it quickly and pick up on it.
A funny story too, about where.
A funny story. 2 years ago, I picked the hybrid EGT project, and this was these are two of the simple cycle combustion turbines, GE LM6000. There's more than 1,000 of these in the world, and we added this battery to the existing beaker. First time in the world anybody is trying it. We are partnering with two other companies, Wellhead and GE. I was leading this project. I took it to Edison senior management and I said, this will work, trust me, and if it works, this is going to show us that we are the most environmentally forward-thinking company. We are reducing the GHG emissions footprint, reducing the O&M, and it's going to not many times increase the P&L, the value of that power plant. So it's a really good story, business with sustainability and environment. Now, we were going to drop the minimum load on that power plant without getting too technical from what it used to be like 20% to like almost 1 megawatt. Nowhere in the world has this been done. And the science of it, the engineering of it made sense. The team that we had in here, we were doing some hardware upgrades, some software upgrades, and I was really nervous whether it would work or not work. You don't know until you've burned like tens of millions of dollars. And we had a hard deadline of December 31st because of the regulation under which we were building it. December 29th, it went online and it worked, and I had a really good New Year. So that was my story where we didn't know whether it would work or not, but it did.
So how many pounds of blood did you burn?
How many pounds of blood? Pounds of CO2 we reduced.
Oh, so it was inversely proportional or directly proportional
Yeah.
to the amount of blood burned in order to worry about it
Yes.
with the amount of CO2 saved.
Yeah.
Okay, so Smita, you've asked for a funny story, but it's actually a very serious point that you raised.
Absolutely.
Imposter syndrome is not an easy thing, and actually, I'll give you a personal story. It's not going to be funny. It may be funny.
That's okay.
So here's the thing. I grew up in Bihar. I don't know how many of you are here from Bihar. Okay, a few. Okay, good. And small towns. My dad was an engineer in Bihar State Electricity Board, and so we lived in real tiny towns here and there. No schools, very little infrastructure. So when you grow up in a place like that, you don't realize that you can change the world, or you can move things. Word is more malleable than you think when you live in a place like that, because all the good things happen somewhere else. You were just a recipient of that. Okay. I went to IIT, did very well there. I got my PhD from MIT, did okay. And I became a professor. I was teaching at University of Toronto. But I will tell you that even through all of those things, I wasn't quite sure that, I knew that I would get a job and I would be able to make a living. But ultimately, we want to do more than just that, right? So I came to Qualcomm, and I, for various reasons, I decided to leave Toronto. We can get into that story separately. And then I designed some algorithm, and then some software engineers were working on this thing. They implemented it, and then we went in the lab and we looked at the logs, and I said, boy, my algorithm is working almost exactly how I predicted it would. This is amazing. And then I go to my boss and I tell him this. And he said, the algorithm that you have designed for the base station is going to be in hundreds of thousands of base stations. And the thing that you have designed for the phone is going to be in millions of phones. And I chuckled because I didn't quite believe it. Even at that point, just imagine, I've gone through all of these things, pretty successful in every metric that you can think of, but somehow I didn't believe that I could do something that would make that big of an impact. And that's the time I'm thinking, I can actually move things. I don't just have to worry about getting a job and making a living. I can actually make changes that will actually have an impact. And it really was a very satisfying experience to see those algorithms get in not just hundreds of thousands, but millions of base stations, and not just millions of phones, but tens of millions or hundreds of millions, even billions of phones eventually. And so I think that the lesson that I learned from there, that I've tried to teach my children, and I hope others learn that too, is that perhaps you should have more faith in yourself anyway.
Great, thank you. Means my was really how to get rid of this imposter syndrome, because means we get there in IIT and everybody is so smart. You feel like, how did I get here, right? Am I as smart as everybody else? And that's exactly what you're describing, that when you conquered it, because it worked. But I think that's what drives us to drive towards excellence too. Prabodh, would you like to share more?
Sure. So I have a story actually in kind of reverse. And this is a true story. I told you about the various projects that I've done. So this is the second project that I alluded to, where we were freezing the prostate to cure BPH. And traditionally the procedure is done by using an RF device to scrape out literally the prostate. And there are problems with that procedure because there are other organs there that you may destroy. So a company had come out with this method of freezing the prostate. And their equipment was huge. They used a liquid nitrogen tank. If you've been to a hospital, these tanks are taller than I am, diameter like this, and they super cool the liquid nitrogen, and then they put it through a probe, and then they collect the nitrogen back. So the equipment is horrendous, it's huge, and we were working with Stanford, and one of the key comments the doctor over there made was, God, it takes 30 minutes to freeze a prostate, that's too long. And he made the statement from the viewpoint that it takes 30 minutes, and then, I did the analysis, being a mechanical engineer, that the calculation was showing it should freeze in minutes. So So why was it taking 30 minutes and it was taking that long? Because the longer you take, the body is actually heating and taking the cold away. So if you could cool it really fast, you could actually cool it really fast. The longer you take, the longer you're going to take. So we did a system which was very simple. We took a jar of compressed argon and using Joule-Thomson effect, just expanded it, and we cooled so fast the prostate froze in our simulation in 2 minutes, and then we got cadavers. It froze very fast, and we did animal studies, froze in 3 minutes. So our equipment was so small and so simple, and there was no sound, there were no pumps or anything. So now we're about to go to a conference, and people look at our equipment and they said, nobody will believe it, that you have such a simple system, because it was an open loop system, just compressed gas being expanded. So we put a pump, just so the device makes a lot of noise to get some credibility, because anybody who saw the equipment would have been just fooled into thinking that this was a toy or a ploy and you're showing it. So sometimes you have to do just the opposite to make yourself look more sophisticated, more complex. And we went to the American Neurology Association meeting in San Francisco, and we were, in all the media and everything, because we had such a small device. The competition came sniffing around. They couldn't figure out what we were doing because there was a pump, but they couldn't figure out what Sometimes you actually do the reverse to throw off the competition. Nobody showed up for like 3 or 4 years as competitors till they figured out what we really did.
That reminds me, it's like, one of the first time, like when we sold in our first company, we were giving doctors these computers, and new computers were getting smaller and smaller, and the doctors will just tell us, we want the biggest system you have, and our competitors couldn't figure out why we were winning orders, we were giving these old computers to them, and that was, they loved it much more, because they were the biggest system with the biggest monitors, but I totally agree, this is awesome. So how many people own a Maserati here? No? The car? No? So one of our friends bought a Maserati and then he didn't like it because he didn't have the noisemaker in it. So he got it installed. So now when he runs his car, it goes zing, zing. He likes it. So I totally agree with that. So a couple of people are asking about, one of the questions for you, Parag, is the future of VR and AR technology. How do you see it happening in entertainment? How do you see the future of VR in entertainment industry?
You asked that question? So here's my personal, I'll try to answer it with the perspective of history and where we're going to go. If you look at the movie Motion Pictures Camera, it came out in the 1910s, 1920s. And it's taken such a long time, about 80 years, for people to use that to develop the cinematic effects that we now know to enjoy a story. In the olden days, they used to just put a camera exactly like this in front of an audience and record it and then just show it projected on the screen. So in a similar context, if you see VR and AR, they are, well, VR especially, more than AR. VR is doing exactly the same thing. The paradigm that we know, they're trying to just put it on a VR and put it in your goggles and just visualize it, right? It's going to take a lot of time for people to figure out how to use this medium to tell interesting stories, or what kinds of stories to share in that medium. And this is, I've seen some interesting concepts, but it's still a lot more time to do it. Right now, VR as a medium is still not, it's not everywhere as in, there's no home entrenchment as yet as televisions have. Like it's still a 2D projection and it's interactive, but there has to be ways of developing storytelling, developing even different kinds of interactions in like a gaming environment. And people are working on it. It's going to take I think it'll take about at least another 5 to 10 years for it to be also cost.
So is it just VR or VR, AR or mix up, MR? Because MR is
So I consider VR very different from VR. AR is you're augmenting your visual, your current visual device, not device, your visual field that you have. You're augmenting it with some extra information, right? Whether information is shown to you on your camera feed or it's shown to you on some projected thing through on your glasses. But it's combining both what you see with what you want. And those are more information-based, more than entertainment-based. VR, on the other hand, you can really put yourself into a what should I call it?
Separate zone.
A suspend. You can put yourself to suspend your disbelief. That's a technical term for it, I guess. Very easily. And there is a lot of VR content coming out, but the best one I've seen is Disneyland, with the Star Wars.
Void.
Yeah, Star Wars.
The void one. Yeah. Actually, I think one good way to explain is that instead of watching a movie, you become a character in the movie. Through VR.
Yeah.
So the question is,
You nodded. Did you have anything to do with it?
It's actually, he's interested in that because what Qualcomm is working on is how to make the communication links so fast that some of the rendering could be done on the other side of the because, okay, so VR in general, what you're thinking about is that you're living in a world and you have a head-mounted display that is showing that world, but that world, what is shown in front of your head has to change as you move your head, right?
Yeah.
So it has to track very, very carefully where you are. But if you wait until your head is moved and then you do the full rendering, then that takes too much time, and it's not fast enough.
It has to.
Because being done in a relatively, it's still the whole power, efficient thing that I was talking about. It has to be done power efficiently. So what you can do is if you have a very high speed link between that and a computer that's nearby, and you do that rendering on the other side with a very high quality, send it to your head-mounted display, and then make adjustment with the last moment changes that have happened in there, then that can have a pretty good effect. And actually, the reason Bibu and I were talking about him because he has worked on this thing. He's currently working on it. And there's a particular company based in Salt Lake City called Void that has actually set up a couple of these things that has gotten good customer reviews.
Yeah, at ICT also I saw something happening similar to it, that as you move your head, then they do. And it's here in Playa Vista, they develop some technology.
All VR has to do that. I mean, it has to respond to your head movement and eye movement.
Or use light fields.
Or use what?
Light fields.
Light fields, yeah, like that's Google is developing, right?
No, it's been developed for a long time. There are lots of places. But in the context of VR, it was a company called Lightro that you pre-render everything. And then when you change, you're not rendering an image, it's just going to be a lookup, an index.
So one of the questions that people are asking that you've done entrepreneurships so many times, you're a serial entrepreneur. What does it really take to sustain as an entrepreneur? Start sustaining. So would you like to expand on it a little bit?
Well, so, to be able to do this multiple times, every company needs an infrastructure, and all of that costs money. So, having a winning team is very important. So I would say that's number one. And if you look at the history of most startups, you will find the same people, doing a project and then they go do another one, which certainly has been my experience. And it is truly a team effort. So, technology is just one piece, and you can imagine in my field, which is very highly regulated, and it's regulated not only in the US, but in Europe, and Japan, and China, and everywhere else. So you have to be super careful in making sure that you meet all the standards and all the regulations. Otherwise, you really have nothing. The team has to include things like folks like on the intellectual property side. I was discussing over lunch with somebody that you got to have both defense against patents out there, and then you have to have your own special IP that gives you protection. So I would say the team, and then once you have the team in place, it gives some credibility. Raising money becomes a lot easier. Unfortunately or fortunately, the amount of money that's needed now to do a company, I think it's true in almost every field, but certainly in the medical device field. You know, I've seen it grow by an order of magnitude. The first company I mentioned, we did an IPO when we had spent like 20 million. Exonics, we did an IPO when we had spent 120 million. So we raised, you know, Series A, B, and C at that level. So a lot of money. But the rewards are also proportionally bigger. So.
Great, great, yeah. So as you know, my background is helping startups with strategy and this, so I think I'll pull you in to help them with it.
Yeah.
Is that okay? So how many people are entrepreneurs here? First of all, you guys are invited to my TAI Southern California conference in 2 weeks. That's a startup, we have a lot of investors there. But yes, Pramod will be there too to explain to you more, right, on that. So we have one question that, I'm sorry, I couldn't read it, but I think Vibhu can read about it.
Yeah, I don't know who asked it. I'll read the question. We talk about electric cars saving CO2 emissions. What about pollution that is caused to generate that electricity? How does that scale with the present day power production scenario? Very thoughtful question. Who asked it? All right. And you're from which IIT?
Kharagpur.
Kharagpur. Your name?
Aman.
Aman. So very nice question. So currently in California, the total greenhouse gas emission in a year from all sectors in our entire economy is about 450 million metric tons of CO2. Out of that, about 40% comes from transportation sector, about 19% comes from electric power. So that's one part of it. The largest contributor is the transportation sector. The numbers stay that way, by the way, if you go to India as well. The electric power is a little bit bigger. But I think the larger point is we are at a point in California where about half of our electricity is generated from carbon-free resources. And there is no more coal in California anywhere. There is no oil in California. We have a last nuclear power plant which will retire in 2024. And so all new generation is really wind and solar and energy storage to enable the intermittency, to balance the intermittency of that renewables. So that problem is getting solved over time. And we know our projections are that we will go from 50 to 80% carbon free and then 100% carbon free. So 19% will become smaller and smaller over the next decade. The question is, how do we solve the other part of the pie? So the 40% hangs out there if we keep on burning gasoline just to drive from point A to point B. And so that's where electrification of transportation, and I say electrification of transportation, not just passenger vehicles, medium duty vehicles, heavy duty vehicles, the trucks. You've probably heard of the I-5 project where some of the utilities on the West Coast from SoCal to PG&E to Bonneville Power all the way to Seattle area, they're all tied up to build infrastructure for all of this transportation on I-5 to be electrified and remove all these greenhouse gas emissions. And now automobile manufacturers are passionate about driverless trucks. So think of everything on I-5, goods moving in a way it's safe, it doesn't cause collisions, it doesn't burn gasoline. That's really where the future is.
I'm going to avoid I-5, this driverless trucks for sure. In my area, if you go with the white, like, you know, there have been so many accidents of driverless cars until it's really. We have another question right now, and I think this is a question for Rajesh and Parag. It is, will there be a future where all our devices, and you know, Pramod and Vibhu, you can answer too. Will there be a future where all our devices, phone, computer, tablet, and TV, merge into a single device where the visual aspect is common to all modes of computing? Who wants to take it first?
Isn't that world
I
today?
can start.
Yeah.
Sure.
I said it isn't that world today. I'm just holding this phone. I think
You
it's
have
my
your-
tablet and computer and everything today.
You have your TVs which have become fused with being smart and yeah, and so in many ways it has already happened, and it's happened because it's not fully. The question is like all encompassing, but I think standards are in place, and interoperability is in place to make sure that we have digital bit streams that can be decoded by standards on every phone or every device and integrate it on every device. Actually, what is more interesting in all this is when you have content going one way, that's good. But when you have content going the other way also, like when you have interactivity coming in, the interactiveness is yet to be like more ubiquitous thing. Where you can be on a phone, I can be at home on TV, he can be in his Tesla, and somebody else can be on some other tablet somewhere else. And we all interconnected and watching and also commenting on and interacting with, changing the same thing. I mean, it happens in games, right? Multiple devices. So a lot of what the question was asking for, I think, is either on its way or already happened. But the scale of it, in which how socially we communicate or we interact, that's another level.
Thanks, Parag. Rajesh?
Yeah, I can add just a little bit to that. As Parag said, I think go Qualcomm. We have done a lot of the work that actually caused all these things to get integrated. You don't carry a camera anymore. You don't carry different devices anymore. But ultimately, I do think that people would have different types of visual displays because the size matters. Sometimes you do want to see things in big screen and so on. But as we were talking about before, you probably want to have the same content just displayed in a different format depending upon where you happen to be. If I'm in a car, I don't want to use a display, but I want to still have the audio part of that going. If I'm in a small room, I want a small display. If I'm in a big room, I want a big display. So all of those things should be supported. But a lot of that, as you've already seen, an integrated digital stream that can then be realized in different format. And as AR and VR and all of these things become more and more ubiquitous, I'm sure more and more different types of things will come. They will first appear as a separate thing, then they'll become integrated, and this push and pull will continue there.
So, do you have something to add to this?
No, I think I was going to say the common theme here is that I think it's already happening. So, like you said, I'm keeping my phone and it's one by one, all my devices are disappearing, and phone is the
Yeah, go Qualcomm.
Yeah.
Go Qualcomm, because my most important accessory is not even jewelry anymore, is the phone.
Yeah.
I can live with everything, without everything else, but not my phone. One day I left it at home, I couldn't function for the next 2 hours.
I think an interesting landscape to extend that will be, since virtual reality was brought up, we are definitely trying to create virtual content and virtual worlds. We live in a real world. With all these devices, when do you think the virtual and real is going to fuse up? Right? So
Oh,
you
like
can be
Dr.
virtual and you
Suket.
can be.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You can be in a virtual world and a real world and you don't understand when you're in which, or you do understand when you're in which.
So I was actually thinking about the future, but right now we carry so many different devices. We carry a phone, we carry a tablet, and when you're at home, we watch it on TV. So if you look at it, basically all of these devices are computers. Now you have a computer in your TV too. So will AR VR technology advance to such an extent where all we need to carry is just one small device that can slip in your pocket, maybe like the size of a credit card, and that can have all the functions of everything. You put on your AR device and then you have some way to interact with it directly, and that will perform the function of your computer and tablet as well as your phone.
There will be a device, and it will not be in your pocket. It will be something coming out of your head. and to give you some fantastic predictions that I've been following from Ray Kurzweil or Nicholas Negroponte. One of the most fantastic ones was in communication and also understanding, learning. I mean, getting information. The way we get information today, we access information, whether it's a tablet or it's through your eyes. You look at information, through your eyes, you access it and you perceive it, right? This mode is so low bandwidth. There's a high bandwidth signal coming, but the information has got such low entropy going in that this is the worst way to do it. And the better ways to do it by swallowing a pill. You should be able to swallow a pill and know Shakespeare. You should be able to swallow a pill and have fantastic as it is.
Come on, no physical thing. Direct brain implant. So that's the thing.
Okay, guys, we are out of time. I'm sorry, this is such an interesting discussion, but we can carry. You guys are going to be here, right? And we can continue some discussion after. So thank you so much. Applause for